Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube, featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings, the AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports. Real coverage from real fans.
What is going on, Roundtable Sports? It is your usual suspects back here again on, well, I guess it's a little past 5:30, but roughly 5:30 p.m. Eastern to talk everything about the 2025 NFL Draft. My name is Colby Cochran. I am one of your hosts here at Roundtable Sports and the show at Draftaholics. That is my co-host, Dion. That is my other co-host, Broshmo, and my other co-host, Derek. And today we are breaking down the top 5 offensive tackles in this 2025 draft class. If you haven't checked out the rest of our videos, make sure you do so. Guys, at this point, we've broken down almost every single side of the offensive side of the football. We've broken down quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Now we got offensive tackle. Next week, it's going to be the interior of the offensive line. We are letting you know some of the top draft prospects at each of their respective positions. So on your way in, make sure you leave a big like on the video. Subscribe here to Roundtable Sports for all your sports needs. We got Wake Up and Ball with Richie and TD Monday through Friday. And then you got Draftaholics every single Thursday live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Before we start breaking this thing down, though, let's go around the bend and see how these guys are doing. Dose, we didn't get to see you last week, but we got you back this week. How you feeling?
Man, I appreciate y'all for holding it down, man. You know what's it's crazy. So last time I had hair, I feel like I'm freezing now. Like I'm not used to it. Just a quick side note. Like I'm sitting here like, bro, I should put my coat back on.
Bro. I shaved this down. I'm on a buzz cut and I'm out in the cold and it my scalp feels like it's like on fire at times.
Yeah. Y'all got more hair than I do, so
we'll see, but we don't know that. Broshmo, you don't know that. We could have thought you had an afro under there. You didn't say that.
Well, I wouldn't wear a hat if not for the glare.
Bro, that you know dope that would be Broshman that takes off his hat. It's just like whoosh. That'd be awesome. Hey, but don't worry. I don't know if you checked out last week's episode, but we did still break down your list. And you know what? I think we all agreed. We're like, this is the first time we have a Doses list where we're like, there ain't nothing controversial on here, and he's not even here to talk about it. Shout out to Dose for giving us a good old list for the tight ends last week. But Broshmo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to talk some hog mollies.
Some hog mollies, that what we're calling them?
Hog molly. Well, that's what I call them.
Some hog mollies.
Hey. Okay.
What is a hog molly, Broshmo? For people that don't know, like me.
It is a girthy, large, meat-loving individual.
What?
That came in at a good time. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, don't add too many adjectives here, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna start getting into some seconds of the show. Never mind. Don't need to know what a hog molly is.
Yeah, if you need any more definitions, I got you.
Not thesaurus. Derek, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm super excited. Can't wait to talk about another position group. Let's get it.
Let's get it, guys. Before we get into it, though, we start breaking down each of your lists. I do have to ask your thoughts about the offensive tackle group because I feel like there's been some controversy surrounding this group. Some people feel like it's very underrated, especially as the draft goes on. Some people, and this is what I believe that it's not a very good draft class. I don't necessarily love the depth in this draft class, and I feel like maybe I'm becoming the minority in that. What do you guys think about this tackle class? Do you think it's deep? Do you think it's a good year to need a tackle?
I think we're coming off a year where we had one of the best offensive line classes in a long time. Like, it was studded last year. And this class, I think it's fine. It's just, you look at some of these tackles and it's like, but are you a guard? And I feel like that's probably why people are a little bit lower on it. Because, I mean, we're going to talk about our list today. And, oh, shoot, man, I bet you we have a few NFL guards on there.
Yeah.
But I just hope that one of my top two guys, which we'll break down here in a second, ultimately ends up being a tackle and not a guard. But Derek, Dose, you guys have any thoughts on how you view this tackle class?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's very top heavy to me. There's like 4 or 5 guys that are like, you could have an argument as to these guys being potential first rounders. And then after that, there's maybe 1 or 2 here and there that I would, see as good depth. But, outside of that, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's not as insanely deep as it normally is. I've looked at it a little bit, but yeah, to me, feels very top heavy. And, ironically enough, we were talking about it right beforehand. We're debating on whether or not, Donovan Jackson should be put as tackle for this, only because, he had to replace Josh Simmons, who is also a tackle, who's one of the top tackles in this draft class from Ohio State as well. And he did an outstanding job, both as a guard and as a tackle. So, was there a chance to put him in there? You could have. It just came down to, semantics and everything. But, yeah, it's still a good class, though. And anyone that takes one early is definitely going to get a high-caliber prospect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other thing I'll say, too, is that every single year, once one offensive tackle gets taken off the board, everybody starts panicking, and all of the offensive tackles fly off the board. So I think how many offensive tackles that go in the first round will be very, very dependent on when ultimately that first tackle does get taken. Dose, any thoughts on this tackle class?
Yeah, just that. I want to see who the top tackle is. Like, I feel like there's conversation. I feel like there's going to be conversation this year about that. I don't think it's clear cut, at least as of now. And I also think we got some people movers this year. Like, I think there's a lot of these dudes that move some dudes in the run game. It doesn't feel it's not like built just for finesse. You're not just thinking, okay, well, what is he gonna add in the run game? I think you got people movers this year. So I'm excited for this class. This looks fun.
Let's get into it, but before we do, big shout out to DF Forever, who comes in with a $2 super chat. Big time support of the AFC East Roundtable. DF, you know that we love you. Said, I will do this on my way in. Have fun, guys. Hey, we're going to do that. We're going to do just that. We're going to break it down. We're going to have some fun. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. We got Bella in the chat. We got JD in the chat. We got Derek in the chat and on screen at the same time. Let's freaking go, Derek. Double time right there. We got Daniel. We got Chris. And big shout out to my boy, 713 Houston Sports. We got Ruben in the chat. That is my man. He said, it's that handsome man, Colby. Hey, man, you're feeding my ego, and you'll always be a part of Roundtable Sports as long as you keep doing that, I promise. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into these lists. And Dose, I want to start with you because we didn't get to hear much from you last week. In fact, we didn't get to really hear from you at all. So we're going to start off with you, Dose. Go ahead and break down your list while I try to figure out the setup.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll just block it there. Man.
This one.
There you go.
That one.
There should have been a 4 one, isn't there? Isn't there like a
This one.
Hey.
This one. That one.
Nope. We've done this
know where it went.
times now.
You just move your lips and then I'll say things and we can just make this.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got you. It's okay. Go ahead, start.
Okay. So the first person that we have listed at the very I can't do this. No,
Guys, I swear, I don't know where it went.
Where did it go?
They got rid of it.
A 4 option, wasn't there?
They got rid of it. They didn't tell me they got rid of it.
Oh,
I remember my first time.
They got rid of the layout.
Unbelievable.
Do you want me to just go?
Yeah, just go.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, man, I got Kelvin Banks at 1, and I think this one's going to be controversial, and I'm here for it. I was controversial for me putting it on here, to be honest. I was like, I don't know if I can get there, because I feel like it's going to be an open door for putting it at number 1, because I didn't get to the point where I thought there was a ton of players where I had like elite traits across the board, so it wasn't a clear cut for me. I think there was a lot of good players. I think there's a lot of well-rounded players, and I think that Banks, first off, he's the NFL size of an offensive tackle. Like, that's the build. It's like a mold of a kind of guy that I just want to throw out there as my offensive tackle. I feel good about Kelvin Banks. I think he transitions well to offensive tackle. I'm a little bit concerned about maybe if there is some guard flexibility, but overall, like, this is a player that, in terms of My biggest issue is some of the reliance on his footwork. When he gets into spots where it's like, okay, forced to recover here, I feel like he leans on his hands a little bit more. But I think he plays with excellent posture consistently. I think it puts him in a lot of good spots. I think you see it as a run blocker. He has way more acceleration than you would expect when he gets to the second level. I think there's a lot more deceptive athleticism here, and I think he does it through the control that he constantly plays with. I think there's a lot of upside for the anchor, the play strength that he could bring to the table. I think that has a great type of ceiling, even though there's inconsistency there. And if you watch, like, I was watching the Georgia game last night. I mean, towards the end of that game, that thing got a little bit messy as it was like pass play after pass play. It was like, this is getting a little bit messy. But overall, I think that the traits that you have in this piece can turn into the best tackle when we look back on it. I think there's going to be some bumpy games as things get started, but I think it can ultimately get there. Josh Simmons was... I mean, he's the guy that looks like an offensive tackle, and I love the fit in the NFL personally. For me, I think this is a better athlete than Kelvin Banks in a lot of ways. I think there's some better foot quickness as we see Broshmo's face. Broshmo, I like it because when Broshmo's up there, there's good energy. All right, the smile and everything, I like it. It's good energy, so you can leave Broshmo on the screen. But I think this is a well-rounded piece, man. I think he taps into a lot of the top traits that you need to have. I think he's got explosive reactive quickness as a run blocker and as a pass protector. Again, there's some ugliness that I think pops up maybe a little bit more here in pass protection overall, but for the most part here, like, I think this is a guy that brings recovery upside. This is a guy that brings that upside where when things go bad, can he get back into the play? And I don't think you can teach some of that. So overall, to me, Josh Simmons, I think he could play across the line of scrimmage, just from what I've seen so far. I think he could play up and down the line of scrimmage. And then we go to Will Campbell, and Will Campbell's the weird one. To me, he's the weird one. I think he'll be loved by a lot of people. I think he looks weird as an offensive tackle. I'm just being honest. It doesn't look right. But that being said, he moves like nobody I've seen to this point. So it's very understandable. My issue is I feel like as athletic and as pleasing as it is to watch his movement skills at times, I think that there's a lot of the technical side, which I don't trust right now. I think it could get him exposed for stretches in games. I think he gets over aggressive. I think he gets a little lackadaisical at times. I think the movement skills are fantastic. I think the build's a little bit weird. So for me overall, like, I think in terms of to the eye test, Will Campbell's the most appealing. But for me, I don't have him number one right now. Don't even know how to say dude's name. I'm just going to be honest. I have no idea. Membu?
Armand Membu.
Okay, it is Membu. Okay. I shouldn't have said
Let's
that.
Go, Dose. Let's go.
Yeah, Membu. Yeah, y'all don't know about Membu? Hey, look, man. No, to me, Membu's got a higher ceiling in pass pro right now, and I typically value that when we're talking about top offensive tackles. I typically value that a little bit more. And again, it comes back to the traits for me here. I do wonder a little bit about, like, the hand usage for one. I think that's a little bit more average for me right now. I think run blocking is still a plus. So I think he hits on both sides. Again, from the technical side, there's some ugliness there. I think he gets caught lagging a little bit, specifically as a pass protector, and that's my problem. He gets caught behind in positions. But overall, like, he feels like one of those boom or bust players. I'm going to be honest. I feel like there's a boom or bust trait to Membu's game. Hopefully it's more of the boom side, but that's where I'm at. And then Connerly was actually the first offensive lineman I had watched going into this whole thing, and I was like, oh, this tackle class could be pretty darn good. If this is the guy you're first putting out, I mean, first off, Oregon put out some offensive linemen, so I'm already believing right there that they got somebody here. But Connerly kind of got it started with, like, there's people movers in this class, and I think there's a lot of them. I think he fits into that perfectly. He's got a lot of power. I think his hand use is better than most coming out immediately. So for me overall, like, I think pass protection is in a spot where it may not be where you want it to be, and I don't know how super high the ceiling is there, but I think there might be some plug-and-play ability immediately with Connerly as soon as you draft the guy. And I think that's a good trait for any team that just needs an offensive tackle, because a lot of teams that are drafting offensive tackles early, they need him to start. They're not looking for a backup, they need him to start. So I think he has capability to do that. Those are my top 5.
Yeah, I don't think this is bad at all, Dose. I don't think there's too much controversy here like we're kind of used to seeing. Kelvin Banks, to me, I don't know. For me personally, he's clear-cut one. I don't see a world in which he ultimately doesn't end up being number one, but we still have the whole draft process. You never know what's going to happen. Injuries sometimes are inevitable. You hope it doesn't happen, but sometimes those things do happen, and it can drop a player's draft stock. For me, Will Campbell, I feel pretty confident at number 2. I don't expect his arm length to be that short. Now, maybe I get surprised. And it's a lot shorter than I think, and I'm like, oh, crap, yeah, this guy's definitely a guard. There's no way he's a tackle. But I feel like every single year we're in a position where we're talking about the tackle group, and one of the top guys is maybe a guard because his arm's just a little bit too short. And then they still play tackle, and then they're dominant at it. I feel like, to me, even if your arms are a little bit small, as long as you have the freak of nature, God-given physical talents, you have the size, then to me, really, it doesn't matter. So I feel like Will Campbell, I still feel like he's going to be solidified, very comfortable they're at number 2. And then after that, it's just kind of where do you view the top 3? So Membu, I think I have a little bit lower, but he's someone that I had trouble with because even doing my research for this video, he's a guy that a lot of people will have at number 3, or a lot of people won't have in their top 5. It's kind of a very controversial opinion. People either love him or people either hate him. So I struggle with that one. So I can see where your love for him would come from. I think I just have him a little bit lower. And then I have Simmons a little bit lower because I think I just personally view Will Campbell a little bit higher than you do. But Broshmo, what do you think?
I like the list. I feel like this is going to be commonly probably the top 5 you're going to see for most people, maybe with a couple other guys like Ariante Ursary or Cameron Williams. But this is definitely your top group of tackles here. Tackles, maybe guards. We'll find out. But I like the list. It's a good list. It may look similar to a list later on.
You think that list looks similar? Oh, wait till you wait, bro. Wait till you wait. All right, Derek, what do you think about this?
Yeah, you talked about arm length, and it doesn't always equate. Is there another measurement that, like, in this draft process for a different position where people talk about it all the time as if it matters when it really doesn't matter that much? I mean, I feel like arm length is one of them. I mean, again, it can affect you in some ways, and that maybe affects against the elites of the elites. But for guys that just are able to overcome that, I think for me, I think it kind of is a way of 40 times for edge rushers. Like, my edge rush guys, I really don't care what their 40 time is. I feel like it's a completely overblown measurement and number that, it's good for some people, but, for guys that are very technical and guys that actually understand how to play the position, you having a 2-inch shorter arm reach or even a 1-inch lower arm reach is not going to be the end of you at the position, as long as you are smart everywhere else. As far as the list goes, I mean, yeah, outside of Armand being a little high, I like the list where it is.
You know what, Dose? I think that's the quickest we've gotten through your list.
Hey.
That really might be the quickest we've gotten through one of Dose's lists. You guys let us know in the chat. That's fantastic. Crazy. All right, well, Derek, let's pull up yours next, and why don't you break this down for us?
All right. Yeah, so it's basically just Calvin and Will being switched here for the top 3. I think what intrigues me more about Will, he's a slight bit bigger than Calvin Banks, which I think definitely goes hand in hand. Arm length might be an issue, but again, being 6'6" and 323 is insane. And I think what appeals to me about Will Campbell is not only the fact that, he's been a part of some really good LSU offenses, but the way he talks, when I listen to him break down the position, the way I hear him talk about, other things going on the field, I mean, that's a guy that has a very good head on his shoulders, and he's a guy that is just insanely smart and driven to play the position. So I think that's what puts me up there for Will Campbell. Number 2, Josh Simmons. Again, you saw what happened with the Ohio State Buckeyes when Josh Simmons went out. Now, obviously, Donovan Jackson filled that role insanely well in the playoffs. But that had to resort in Ohio State reaching deep down to try to reorganize their offensive line. And you saw how much he was missed. I mean, they struggled to run the football for quite a while after Josh Simmons left. And Josh Simmons, too, even though he's a slight bit smaller, I think is a little bit more of an athlete than some of these other guys. And you know how it is nowadays. A lot of these zone scheme run offenses want guys that are, that 6'4", 310, 315, guys that can move, get to the second level. That's what Josh Simmons can do. He's not going to be a bully in the offensive line, but he's definitely a guy that does a really great job at positioning. He's never really going to get bullied in pass protection. So that's why I definitely have him at number 2, because I like his consistency and what he brings. Kelvin Banks Jr., again, one of the guys on this Texas offensive line, which coming into the season, everyone was talking about how Texas has some of the best tackles in the entire college football landscape, and Kelvin Banks is certainly no joke with that, being at 6'4", 320, and he's been just solid as can be. Josh Connerly there at number 4, again, rose on draft boards a lot over the span of the season. They started to figure out, Oregon started to figure out their offensive line a little bit more as the season went along, and I think Connerly really started to get very comfortable at that spot. And then I had Cameron Williams here at tackle as well. Again, a guy that's going to primarily probably play right tackle. But again, those Texas tackles, man, they allowed Texas to be able to run the football the way they wanted. And, even when guys like Quentin Ewers went down, you had situations where, Arch Manning comes in and, these tackles did such a great job of protecting both quarterbacks for an extended period of time. So that's my list there.
Broshmo, what do you think about this?
I like it. It's a good list. I think like Cameron Williams is going to be it's going to be interesting for him. I hope he ends up right now. I don't think he's going to any All-Star Bowl or whatnot. He might not, but I think it would be nice because I always equate him to like Tyler Guyton, a guy with a lot of tools. He's got the length, good movement skills at that size, but still pretty raw in terms of his technique. Granted, Tyler Guyton had a lot more starting reps under his belt. I mean, Cameron Williams literally this year was first-time starter. It was like sink or swim, and there were a lot of mountains, a lot of valleys when it came to his play this year. And right now, he's just going to be projection. But I mean, if you were just going to look at the build and look at the ability, the athleticism, yeah, he's a first-round tackle. But kind of a ways from being a NFL starter, in my opinion.
Real quick, what do you guys have? I'm really bad with last names, okay? This is why I'm trying to get into the media. People might think like, oh, do you want the clout? No, I want to go into the media professionally so that I get a damn media book and each guy's name is hyphenated. That's the only reason that I'm trying to get into media. But Wyatt Milum, I believe is his last name. Where do you guys have him ranked? Milam, where do you guys have him ranked?
He is tackle 6 for me, actually.
So just outside your top 5.
Yeah, and depending on how he looks at the Senior Bowl, he might be a guard for me.
So one of those guys that could be a guard. Okay, so I got to watch at Mobile. Got to watch at Mobile. Dose, what do you think about the list?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to pull my notes for why. I was gonna say the one thing because I didn't really hit on Campbell enough. The thing about Campbell I think is nice is talk about how large he is. 6'6" is crazy. He does do a really good job of creating force within that. Like you watch him, it's consistent. Yeah. It feels like that's going to translate as a people mover. It's like he may not look like it, but he does a really good job at doing it. And I think it's a consistent process of the way that he does it. And I think Derek hit on a really important point. Like that's one of those guys that are active as heck, man. There's like a consistent just scanning what's around him, what's happening around him. And I think that also translates well. I think everybody's looking for that. So just want to shed some more light on the Will Campbell one. I definitely understand it being at 1. The rest of it's pretty similar here. And then, yeah, Cameron Williams the only difference. So I like it.
Yeah, Will Campbell for me at one point was my offensive tackle 1. This was my hot take I made a couple of months ago, and I got kind of flamed, and now people are like, oh, yeah, maybe he has a point. But I was like, I think when it's all said and done, Kelvin Banks is going to be confidently the number 1 offensive tackle in this draft, and I do still feel that way. I think because of the controversy around Will Campbell's arm length, I think that's ultimately what's going to drop him. I didn't think he had a bad year this past year by any means, but I feel like he didn't live up to what we saw, in 2023. But I also wonder if part of that is because of the quarterback that he had. You go from Jaden Daniels, who was one of the most athletic, mobile quarterbacks at the collegiate level. And we're clearly seeing that even in today's NFL. He's got to go to the damn Super Bowl. Fingers crossed that they beat the Eagles. But because of that, I think it helps somebody like Will Campbell. So, like, if Will Campbell goes to the New England Patriots, right, where he has somebody who is a mobile quarterback to where, you know, if the pocket's crashing on him, he can kind of make Will Campbell look a little bit better. I think that'll help Will Campbell's game overall versus if he went to somebody with, you know, a team like, let's say Jared Goff. I know they're obviously not going to draft Will Campbell, but let's say more of a pocket passing quarterback, a guy that's not very mobile. I think that he could struggle a little bit. So me personally, I do have Kelvin Banks confidently at number 1, but Will Campbell for me, like I said, is number 2 and not far behind at all. So I can definitely see the hype though around Will Campbell, who at one point I did have as my offensive tackle 1. But big shout out to Connor, a not just member of the chat, but also a member of Roundtable Sports. Big shout out to Connor. He says, keep it up, my guys. Jets got to draft Tet McMillan. Hey, now that you drafted, or not drafted, but you signed, I guess not signed, hired Aaron Glenn. Rumors are that he wants to keep Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers stays, supposedly you have, what's his name? Garrett Wilson not wanting to stay. So, hey, send the Patriots Garrett Wilson, and then you can draft Ted McMillan. All said and done. There you go, Connor. I got you. Dion, tough loss. Dion, that was more than a tough loss. That was a depressing loss. I had you in the Super Bowl. Colby, Pats don't deserve Vrabel. Hey, man, we got him. Vrabel's back home. Derek, Colt's going to Colt.
Pretty much. Yep.
I think he hit on that one perfectly. And he says, and Broshmo, keep up the stellar content.
No promises.
No promises. No promises. Why is Richie calling me right now? I'm on the show. Okay. But let's go ahead and let's get into Broshmo's list. Sorry.
Bring him on here, you know? Why not?
Yeah, hey, you're on the show. What's up? What do you think about the tackle class? But all right. Let's get into your list, Broshmo.
All right, look at that. A very fine list indeed. So I got Kelvin Banks there at number 1. For me, it's hotly contested between him and Will Campbell. A lot of people are going to look at those guys as, oh, but are they tackles or are they guards? I just think they're the best offensive linemen in this class. Just simply put.
There you go.
I love Banks, Outland Award winner this past season. Really, the only hiccup was in that first Georgia game because he missed the conference championship game with, I think, an ankle injury. But he had a solid year, stellar year. He's freaking built like a brick house. The dude is powerful. He's got good length. At that 6'4", I mean, dude, he wins the leverage game. And my only problem when he gets to the second level, like I think he does such a good job of like finding and locating a defender, but then. And this is such a college offensive lineman thing. They just turn into lungers. They get over their feet, and there's a knack for them to get olayed, you know? So that was kind of like the one thing I was like, not in love with Banks, but it's a very common thing for college offensive linemen. Will Campbell, it's going to be such a weird discussion, dude. It really is. Because I don't think it's going to be 33-inch arms. And we could talk about how it doesn't matter. In the NFL, it kind of does for NFL teams. Like the only like really 2 prominent offensive tackles are Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater, who have sub 33-inch arms. And it's because they're phenomenal athletes. One guy who I thought should get a shot at tackle in the NFL, Peter Skoronski, ended up having sub 33-inch arms and just tested out like a smidge lesser of an athlete than those two. Hasn't even got a crack at tackle. He's just been playing guard. And I don't think Will Campbell is going to be he might be closer in the realm of athleticism as Skoronski. But if that's the case, he might not even get that shot. And I just have a pet peeve, right? I don't like tall guards.
Really?
Maybe.
Oh, wait, tall guards. I thought tackles.
Yeah, like I
don't like tall guards.
That makes sense. It makes it harder on your quarterback.
I know, especially if they're like Kyler Murray or Bryce Young.
Yeah, right.
Short teams out there.
Exactly. So I hear Colby saying all these guys going to be guards. Like half these guys are 6'6" or more. Like,
see, and that's where I pause. And like the even worse thing with Campbell, it's like he doesn't stay low. This man shoots out of his stance upright. It's like he's standing the whole rep. Which I mean, it is what it is. I don't think it hampers him by any means, but I think that's kind of a hard thing to to persuade me to put at guard, right? When it comes to his hand usage, I think he's not really a striker. He's a mauler. And I don't think he does a great job at like swatting defenders' hands once they get a hold of him. He just wants to like hold on and just like bend these guys to his whim. I get it. That's cool and whatnot. He can do that. But I think it'd be a little bit nicer to see a little bit more active hands and being able to like repel the those hands from defenders and whatnot. Just don't allow them to get good position and be able to rip off their moves. But like Will Campbell's a very good prospect, great movement skills, keeps his head on a swivel, very aware of where the pressure is coming. If there's an extra rusher, a blitzer, if someone's stunting, looping, all that kind of stuff. But Will Campbell, again, it's going to be a very interesting discussion all draft season. And then in my next little tier here is Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly Jr. Simmons is great, man. I thought it was anytime you go from like the FCS or the group of 5 and you're like, no, I'm going to go to one of these power 4, once was power 5 schools, and I'm going to go compete, because he was formerly San Diego State, played right tackle there. And he was like, no, I'm going to go straight to Ohio State. Immediately became the starting left tackle, has been there been doing that for the last year and some change, but 2 years essentially. And he's looked great, dude. He's a nasty run blocker. I think he's got solid movement skills. I think he's going to be able to fit into a lot of different schemes with that. I think something that he cleaned up this year, but since we didn't get like the full year sample size, it's kind of hard to tell. Typically, he plays with wide hands, and that created a lot of penalties, a lot of holding calls. Like he was penalized from 2022 to 2023, like 25 times, with over half of those being holdings. So it was like, but it looked a little bit cleaner this year, but again, smaller sample size. Connerly Jr. was someone that I liked coming into the year more as like a fringe day 2. He added some bulk coming to the season, which was great, because I thought he was missing kind of a power element to his game, at least when it comes to sustaining like pass rushes or sustaining against more powerful blockers, guys that could create like convert speed to power, and added that weight and looked much better this year. I think he's still a bit of I don't want to say work in progress, because I think he made a lot of developments this year, but I think he could definitely use his length a little bit better, because he is a bit longer for 6'4", but I think he could do a better job of using that arm extension to get guys up off his pads. But it was a stellar year from him, like so much so that they were like, okay, we're going to go focus on the right tackle there, Johnny Cornelius, and totally tank his stock. Sorry, bud. But my last guy, Armand Membu, might end up being a guard. He's 6'3". Yeah. What are you going to do about it? But I think he might be one of the best athletes in this class. Like, I love this dude's movement skills. Like, he was playing right tackle for Missouri, and this guy can fly. He can fly. I do have concerns about him dropping back in pass pro, because sometimes it doesn't feel like he has the most stable anchor. Like, he's constantly having to like reset that anchor, and typically he does a good job of it. But you could go to like the Auburn game and see that he had some struggles with guys that were able to convert speed to power. There was a Jalen. I suck at last names. I think it's pronounced McLeod, but he's like 6'1", like 237. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl. He's a tweener type, probably going to end up being an off-ball linebacker. Good player though. But he was able to like push this dude right back into the pocket on a HB draw. And he was able to meet the running back at the handoff, just because he was able to convert that speed to power. And Membu didn't really have an answer for that. But outside of that, like, I think he's got the athleticism to stick at tackle. I think he's got the length as well. And like I said, I love the movement skills with this dude. Question is he guard? Is he tackle? As Shakespeare once said.
If he is a short king, then, you know.
Oh, man. I used to love my short kings.
That's what every girl told me. Yeah, well, you're the only one in the world, apparently, Broshmo. Go ahead, pass that message on to all the shawties in the world. if you the short kings are cool. We love them.
How do you feel about 5'7"?
How do you feel about short kings, right? You don't got to worry about hurting your neck looking up to me, baby. We eye level. I got you. Don't worry about it. Dose, what do you think about the list?
No, man. I think we should talk about that conversation we just had. Let's go into that a little bit more. Let's just. No, man. No, I was gonna say, man, with Membu, I think the thing that stands out is he's so flexible, man. So you do wonder, like, flexible as an athlete. So I think that position flexibility is there, and I think that's something that I think it opens a lot of flexibility for a lot of open doors for what that could turn into. And I would say to the Kelvin Banks thing, like, I do wonder a little bit where certain teams would be at him in terms of their fit for their offense, like how that would look. I thought about that like last year when who was the top offensive tackle that went last year? He slipped my mind right now.
Joe Alt.
Was it Joe Alt? Okay, the guy after Joe Alt, that guy. Can't think of his name.
JC Latham.
JC Latham, yes, when he got drafted, it was like, okay, he's clean, but how's this guy actually going to fit? And I thought that he landed in a good spot where it's going to fit. I think Kelvin Banks kind of falls into that area a little bit, where I'm like, okay, I think there's certain things that I don't love him in, but I just want to give that to Membu, man. I think the flexibility in this game's opened up a lot of scheme diversity and fit spots.
I like it, Derek. What about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, just, very similar to mine. Just, move a few different pieces around, and this is basically how it is. I mean, what list did we have just recently that was pretty similar to these? It was just like the same 5 guys for most of us. It was just moving what depended on where everybody was putting them at. That's what this feels like, right?
Certainly wasn't quarterback.
Yeah, certainly wasn't
quarterback.
I still can't get over Dion's quarterback list. It was all over the place.
Those your quarterback one didn't even come out.
Well,
hopefully he does good things in Miami. I'm just gonna say that
he's not gonna do well in Miami, bro. That's where dreams go and hope to die, dude. Seriously,
he made that quarterback one money. Though. He got that quarterback one money though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
they
making more than
paying all them guys all that money, but they don't be coaching. That's the problem.
Hey, dude, Chris Paul is a great recruiter.
Yeah, recruiting is one thing. Coaching them is a different story.
That's right. The Hurricanes have their own Jimbo Fisher. It's great.
Hey, yo. Hey, well, look. If you guys liked Broshmo's list, you're going to love my list. It's the exact same. It's the exact freaking same. Now, I'm not going to lie. I saw when I put Membu on my list, I was like, there's no way anyone else is going to have him at 5, right? It was between him and Wyatt that I was going to put at 5. And then I saw and I texted our graphics guy the list when I put them all together when you guys sent me them. And I was like, should I just shake things up and put Wyatt? Like, should even though he's my number 6, number 7, like, should I put him at 5 just to switch things up? And I was like, I feel like that's doing a disservice. But I don't have too much to say just because I feel like you guys, Broshmo, you have the exact same list. You touched on it pretty perfectly. Like I alluded to, Kelvin Banks, a few months ago, it was between him and Will Campbell for number 1. I think Kelvin Banks is pretty confidently my number 1 tackle in this class. Really, really good in pass protection. Might be the best tackle in terms of pass protection. Really good at run blocking, too. He's not good as run blocking as he is in terms of pass protection, but he is still very good at run blocking. You're going to get a guy who's very well-rounded, and we're in today's generation of the league where the majority of tackles, or the majority of teams rather, when they're looking for a tackle, they're going to care more about pass protection. How can you protect my quarterback? How can you help the overall passing game? And I'm somebody, especially as a Patriots fan, that firmly believes in the fact that you need an offensive lineman. You need to prioritize pass blocking, because if your quarterback doesn't have enough time to get through his progressions, if they're going to speed up his internal clock, then it's going to affect your offense in general, not just your passing game, but you're not going to get the best out of your wide receivers also. They don't have enough time to get in and out through their breaks. I think teams are seeing with defensive lines, edge rushers, defensive tackles becoming a lot more athletic, a lot more scary coming out of the draft, that, offensive line, it needs to become more of a priority. And these guys are not a dime a dozen. They don't come around that often. A lot of teams are looking for quality tackles, 2 starting tackles, and there's just not enough to go around of them in the league. I think that Kelvin Banks can immediately come in and be an above average starter in the NFL. Now, Will Campbell, I think he has all of the measurables. I think he has all the possibilities to be a very good tackle in the game. But again, for me, it just comes down to, what is that arm length going to be? I don't want to solidify anything about Will Campbell until I ultimately do see that arm length, because that'll give us a better idea. Because if his arm length is too short, then he is going to be a guard. But if it's a situation where, okay, it's So what, a fourth of an inch, short? Okay, maybe we can work around this a little bit. We've seen guys do it at the NFL level before. Also, really, really like that he's 6'6". I don't know about you guys, but like I said with tight ends, I'm a hoe, bro. I'm an absolute hoe for a guy who is a 6'6" pounding tackle over on the left side. You can't see over the brick wall, and he's just gonna, you're gonna try to block him, and you're just gonna bounce right off of him. And I feel like that's what Will Campbell is, coming in at 6'6". Then you get into somebody like Josh Simmons. Now, Josh Simmons, 6'5", 310 pounds. I think he's going to be good getting off of his stance. I think he's very quick. I think he's athletic. I think he has, like I said, all the ability to be a very good tackle at the next level. I think you guys hit on that one very well. Josh Connerly also, like I alluded to, 6'4", 315 pounds. That's my bigger concern for Josh Connerly. I don't love the size. I feel like he is a little bit undersized for a tackle, but Broshmo, I think you hit on it perfectly. Has all the intangibles, very athletic to be a tackle at the next level. And then Membu. This is the one where it gets controversial because I feel like he has all of the traits to be a great tackle, but it's the size. And is the size at the NFL level just going to be too much for him? Because he has all the God-given talent, things that you can't teach. He's exactly what you want in a tackle, other than obviously his size. What is he? 6'3", 314 pounds is what I have him as. I think he's going to be good getting off his stance. I think he's going to be quick, and maybe because of how quick I think he'll be able to get off the line, maybe the height won't necessarily matter. But if he has a 6'6", 300 some pound, edge rusher coming at him, defensive tackle coming at him, how's he going to react? I think that's the biggest question. So I think he is a little bit of a throw up for me at number 5. I think there probably were some safer options, but I think he's a guy that in the NFL, he's going to be boom or bust. There's no middle. He's either going to do really, really well. The measurables aren't going to matter because of the God-given talent he has, or the size is just going to absolutely get him bulldozered, and he's not going to be in the league for very long. You guys kind of basically hit on this list, but any last thoughts?
Let me ask this for the group. So it's going back to the Donovan Jackson thing, because I feel like it's a good conversation. If we knew for a fact that NFL teams were specifically going to make Donovan Jackson a tackle in the NFL, again, he's probably going to be guard, but if on the off chance that, just to see what you guys think, like, would you have him in your top 5 if you knew he was actually going to be a tackle?
Yeah, he would have been 5 for me.
Okay. 5 for you. Like, Colby?
Which one are we talking about?
Donovan Jackson, the tackle guard from Ohio State that had to fill in for Josh Simmons when he went down.
I mean, dude, he was elite during the college football playoff.
He literally didn't allow a single pressure in the entire college football playoff.
I think I still got Milam at my number 6. I feel like he'd be my next guy up.
Top 5,
Dion, you gonna put him in your top 5?
I keep talking about him. I feel like I should switch it. I really do. I've been talking about him this entire time. Maybe I should switch my number 5.
That dude's gonna be at 1 by the time we get to the draft.
Yeah, dude.
Should have seen. I don't think he'd be in there right now for me. He wouldn't be in our top 5, but I think that's okay, because I think that matters when we're trying to figure out what position these guys are gonna play. Like, I saw someone in the chat bring up Gray Zabel. I don't know if that's how you say his name. Gray Zabel. Like, for me,
yeah,
I liked him a lot, but for me, I think he's a guard. I think he's a guard at the next level. So I think that matters. And right now, I wouldn't have him in my top 5. OT3 is kind of wild, but I think he's going to go guard, personally.
Yeah. 6'6", man. I hate my guards tall, dude.
I'm not going to say I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I love it. Just,
Well, it's also the fact that it's hard to throw over them. If a guy's like 6'6", 6'7", sitting right in the middle of you, trying to hit the middle of the field becomes a lot more difficult, because next thing you know, you're batting the ball off the back of the dude's helmet.
Man, playing quarterback's become a short man's game.
Yeah, especially for the interior. Now, if you want to play tackle and you want to be 6'6", you are more than welcome to be a wall on my blind side. But when it comes to the interior, I need to be able to see the field fully in all 3 phases. And if you're blocking it, that's going to lead to picks. That's going to lead to interceptions. It's going to lead to a lack of production.
Yeah, Zabel's got a lot of experience just all over the line. I think he's played on both sides and at like both tackle and guard spots. So there's a lot to like about him. I mean, dude, North Dakota State, Dude,
they
Cody
just put out
Mock,
linemen, man.
they had Dylan Radins. I know that's one's kind of been, yeah, but I feel like that's more on Tennessee. They couldn't decide if he was a guard or a tackle or not, so he's been flopping everywhere. But, dude, Cody Mock, year 2, looked great.
That's O lineman U. That's what that is. They can say something, you know what I mean? They got to give them something. And every year they put out a dang top 3 round offensive lineman. It's crazy. They're always up there. There's always somebody up there. I thought the same thing. I would say on Membu too. Back to that, put him in the top 5. Like, I mean, he did bounce around even this season. I mean, he played both sides of the line of scrimmage. They go, their jumbo packages. He flipped over to both sides. So again, I think there's a lot to like there, man. I think a lot of teams will be interested in that kind of piece.
I got Michael Owenu vibes from Membu.
Really?
Yeah. Outside of, the heft.
So, like, a guy that can play guard, a guy that can play tackle, and do both adequately.
Yeah, just at that build at 6'3", and has the athleticism to be able to kick out if you need him to.
Yeah. And I like how he gets on, like if it's a short set, like the way that he closes airspace. I like a lot of, like, that's why I think the transition ability is going to work, because I think some of these dudes, it's like you don't feel like they're closing air, they're leaving opportunity for defensive linemen. This is a guy that if it connects correctly, he's just shutting down the rack.
He wants to be first at the point of attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why, like, some of his passing sets sometimes are wishy-washy, because he just wants to go.
Yep. And Broshmo too. I think that's actually a really good comp that you made is Michael Onwenu, because Michael Onwenu is 6'3", and that's a guy who, is he ever going to be the best tackle in the NFL? No. Is he ever going to be an elite tackle? No. But he could be an average to maybe a slightly above average tackle in the league. And a lot of teams don't even have an above average to average starting tackle. So he would be an upgrade for a lot of teams if he could even play at that average to above average level.
I mean, dude, having that versatility, like, to be able to, like, hey, I could step in and play tackle, and, like,
that's how you get on a football team.
Not worried. Like Elgin Jenkins from Green Bay.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
Dude, yeah, just having that versatility, and I feel like it's very underappreciated, I think is probably the best word for it. Because these guys aren't getting paid stacks.
It's the new way of the NFL to find guys that can do multiple different positions, guys that are willing to do position flexibility. Because if you can become flexible and you show that, hey, you can play tackle or guard and maybe even potentially center, and there's not a huge drop off in your play regardless of which spot you're in, then that immediately makes you just that much more valuable to any team.
And you know what? I want to pull back on that statement I just said, underappreciated, because guards are starting to get paid stacks, like Robert Hunt and Dion Lewis just made, like, the bag. I remember back in my day, it used to be like you'd go to one of these all-star bowls and be like, oh, we want to try you out at guard. It's like, what, you want me to lose more money by being a guard instead of a tackle? Hell no, I ain't going to try that out. But now it's like, dude, having that versatility shoots guys up boards.
Well, if you're a team too drafting Membu, I mean, you have to develop him at one position, right? So if you're a team and you're drafting Membu, specifically, what would you try to develop him as? Would you try to develop him as a tackle, or would you try to develop him as a guard? Because, again, you want to cross-train him to an extent, but you have to focus on training him at one specific position over the other. So which one, if you were an NFL team drafting him, would you try to develop him as?
It's tackle, 100%. It's the more valuable position. It's hard to find a really good tackle.
Got that right. As a Patriots fan, I saw that.
Well, I think that's what it's important about that conversation is you have guys that can play everywhere, and I think that gets you drafted, that can push you up, but it's like almost beyond the first round, because I think when you draft a guy in the first round, there's an expectation of where that guy's gonna settle in. If there's a little bit up in the air, we're trying to figure out if the flexibility is such a selling point, how often is a team gonna go first round? Because if you're going first round, you're probably looking for that starter for that spot right there. But if there's an opening, you get to the second round, immediately think everything opens. I think Cody Miles is a second round pick, right? Tackle to guard, so I think everything kind of opens up once you get beyond the first round.
Realistically, how many tackles do you guys think goes in the first?
Quote unquote tackles.
How many tackles do you think goes in the first?
Probably three. Probably three. I'd say Campbell, Banks, and Simmons probably go in the first, to be honest.
I think I would put like the over and under at like 4.5.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to, because I think Banks, Campbell, Simmons. I really think Connerly. There's just so much buzz about him right now.
Might be, yeah. Could be late.
And
because I know there's going to be a couple guards that are going to get taken too in the first round.
And I think that guard's going to be Donovan Jackson, but to play tackle.
100%.
That's why I'm like, Jackson could be 5.
If he doesn't get hurt and he tests okay and everything else that he does, you just look at what he did this last year. Again, he was an All-American coming into the year. And then you asked him to move from guard to tackle, and it looked like as if Ohio State never lost Josh Simmons in the first place. I mean, that's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, dude, his first game he started against Abdul Carter, had his lunch taken away and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But from there on out, it was like, okay, no, I got this down pat. And I mean, dude, honestly, his first game playing tackle, you're going to put him against the best edge in the class.
And not to mention, Ohio State did run for like 165 yards on Penn State in that game. And they lost Seth McLaughlin in that same stretch too. So, you have to remember that as well.
Yeah, I think we'll see 4 tackles ultimately go in the first. I think there's going to be a team in the back end of the first that says, damn, I need a freaking tackle and I need a freaking tackle now. They're going to panic a little bit because they're going to realize, well, by the time my next pick comes in the second round, all of these guys are going to go. I don't like the depth behind here, so I'm going to take my guy now, even if it is a bit of a reach because of just how much of a need there is for tackle, right? Ultimately, it comes down to supply and demand. There is a much larger need for tackles than guys to go around. So what do you have to do? You have to pay up a little bit extra to get a guy.
Yeah, like you said, man, once the run starts, people jump on it. Like, saw it in the first round last year, and you saw it at the end of the second round and early third round. Once, like, Patrick Paul came off the board, then you had guys like DJ Glaze and Caden Wallace, who I was shocked. I didn't think they were going to be day 3.
Broshmo.
Well, and remember, what was it, that draft class with Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? They, for the wide receivers, they take the first one gets taken at 20, and we're all surprised that it took that long for somebody to finally make the move. And then the next 3 picks after Njigba, all wide receivers. I mean, you're right. When someone is advocated and someone makes that pick for that specific position, then a bunch of teams right after, if they were considering it, they're going to jump on it, even if it might be premature to do so.
Yeah, when it comes to draft, you never want to be late to that run.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, guys, look, that is going to end it for our top 5 offensive tackles in the 2025 NFL Draft. You guys let us know in the comment section below who got it right, who got it wrong, and who are your top 5 tackles heading into this draft. We only got a few more positional breakdowns to do. We do want to figure out how to start doing mock drafts for you guys too. The Super Bowl is right around the bend. After that, we officially have it solidified on what the outlook for the first round is going to be for the draft. And I know that a lot of you guys have been asking, hey, when are the mock drafts going to start? Those are going to be starting very, very soon. So make sure you guys go ahead and stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys on your way out, leave a big like on this video. Help support us tremendously. Subscribe here to Roundtable Sports for a plethora of different NFL content. For the playoffs, we've had NFL Smackdowns. You got Richie and TD with Wake Up and Ball Monday through Friday. You got Draftaholics here every single Thursday, live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So this is your one-stop shop for everything involving the NFL and really just sports in general. As always, we appreciate you guys so much for watching. And until next Thursday, stay safe.